Chapter 23. The king sent, and they gathered to him all the elders of Judah and of Jerusalem. The king went up to the house of the Lord, and all the men of Judah, and all the inhabitants of Jerusalem with him, and the priests, and the prophets, and all the people, both small and great. And he read in their ears all the words of the book of the covenant, which was found in the house of the Lord. The king stood by the pillar, and made a covenant before the Lord, to walk after the Lord, and to keep his commandments, and his testimonies, and his statutes, with all his heart, and all his soul, to confirm the words of this covenant that were written in this book. And all the people stood to the covenant. The king commanded Hilkiah the high priest, and the priest of the second order, and the keepers of the threshold, to bring out of the temple of the Lord all the vessels that were made for Baal, and for the Asherah, and for all the host of the sky. And he burned them outside of Jerusalem in the fields of Kidron, and carried the ashes of them to Bethel. He put down the idolatrous priest, whom the kings of Judah had ordained to burn incense in the high places in the cities of Judah, and in the places around Jerusalem. Those also who burned incense to Baal, to the sun, and to the moon, and to the planets, and to all the host of the sky. He brought out the Asherah from the house of the Lord, outside of Jerusalem, to the brook Kidron, and burned it at the brook Kidron, and beat it to dust, and cast the dust of it on the graves of the common people. He broke down the houses of the Sodomites that were in the house of the Lord, where the women wove hangings for the Asherah. He brought all the priests out of the cities of Judah, and defiled the high places where the priests had burned incense, from Geba to Beersheba. And he broke down the high places of the gates that were at the entrance of the gate of Joshua, the governor of the city, which were on a man's left hand at the gate of the city. Nevertheless, the priests of the high places didn't come up to the altar of the Lord in Jerusalem, but they ate unleavened bread among their brothers. He defiled Topheth, which is in the valley of the children of Hinnom, that no man might make his son or his daughter to pass through the fire to Moloch. He took away the horses that the kings of Judah had given to the sun at the entrance of the house of the Lord, by the chamber of Nathan-Melech the chamberlain, who was in the precincts, and he burned the chariots of the sun with fire. The altars that were on the roof of the upper chamber of Ahaz, which the kings of Judah had made, and the altars which Manasseh had made in the two courts of the house of the Lord, did the king break down, and beat them down from there, and cast the dust of them into the brook Kidron. The high places that were before Jerusalem, which were on the right hand of the mountain of corruption, which Solomon the king of Israel had built for Ashtoreth, the abomination of the Sidonians, and for Chemosh, the abomination of Moab, and for Milcom, the abomination of the children of Ammon, did the king defile. He broke in pieces the pillars, and cut down the Asherim, and filled their places with the bones of men. Moreover, the altar that was at Bethel, and the high place which Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, who made Israel to sin, had made, even that altar and high place he broke down, and he burned the high place and beat it to dust, and burned the Asherah. As Josiah turned around, he spied the tombs that were in the mountain, and he sent, and took the bones out of the tombs, and burned them on the altar, and defiled it, according to the word of the Lord, which the man of God proclaimed, who proclaimed these things. Then he said, "What is the monument that I see?" The men of the city told him, "It is the tomb of the man of God who came from Judah, who proclaimed these things that you have done against the altar of Bethel." He said, "Let him alone, let no man move his bones." So they let his bones alone, with the bones of the prophet who came out of Samaria. All the houses of the high places that were in the cities of Samaria, which the kings of Israel had made to provoke the Lord to anger, Josiah took away, and did to them according to all the acts that he had done in Bethel. He killed all the priests of the high places that were there on the altars, and burned men's bones on them, and he returned to Jerusalem. The king commanded all the people, saying, "Keep the Passover to the Lord your God, as it is written in the book of the covenant." Surely there was not kept such a Passover from the days of the judges who judged Israel, nor in all the days of the kings of Israel, nor of the kings of Judah. But in the 18th year of King Josiah was this Passover kept to the Lord in Jerusalem. Moreover, those who had familiar spirits, and the wizards, and the teraphim, and the idols, And all the abominations that were seen in the land of Judah and in Jerusalem did Josiah put away, that he might confirm the words of the law which were written in the book that Hilkiah the priest found in the house of the Lord. There was no king like him before, who turned to the Lord with all his heart and with all his soul and with all his might, according to all the law of Moses. Neither after him arose there any king like him. Nevertheless, the Lord didn't turn from the fierceness of his great wrath, with which his anger was kindled against Judah, because of all the provocation with which Manasseh had provoked him. The Lord said, I will remove Judah out of my sight, as I have removed Israel, and I will cast off this city which I have chosen, even Jerusalem, and the house of which I said, My name shall be there. Now the rest of the acts of Josiah, and all that he did, aren't they written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Judah? In his days, Pharaoh Necho, king of Egypt, went up against the king of Assyria to the river Euphrates, and King Josiah went against him. And Pharaoh Necho killed him at Megiddo when he had seen him. His servants carried him in a chariot dead from Megiddo, and brought him to Jerusalem, and buried him in his own tomb. The people of the land took Jehoahaz the son of Josiah, and anointed him, and made him king in his father's place. Jehoahaz was 23 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 3 months in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Hamutal, the daughter of Jeremiah of Libnah. He did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord, according to all that his fathers had done. Pharaoh Necho put him in bonds at Riblah in the land of Hamath, that he might not reign in Jerusalem, and put the land under tribute of 100 talents of silver and a talent of gold. Pharaoh Necho made Eliakim the son of Josiah king in the place of Josiah his father, and changed his name to Jehoiakim. But he took Jehoahaz away, and he came to Egypt and died there. Jehoiakim gave the silver and the gold to Pharaoh, but he taxed the land to give the money according to the commandment of Pharaoh. He exacted the silver and the gold of the people of the land, of everyone according to his taxation, to give it to Pharaoh Necho. Jehoiakim was 25 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 11 years in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Zebidah, the daughter of Pedaiah of Rumah. He did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord, according to all that his fathers had done.
For every high priest, being taken from among men, is appointed for men in things pertaining to God, that he may offer both gifts and sacrifices for sins. The high priest can deal gently with those who are ignorant and going astray, because he himself is also surrounded with weakness. Because of this, he must offer sacrifices for sins for the people as well as for himself. Nobody takes this honor on himself, but he is called by God, just like Aaron was. So also Christ didn't glorify himself to be made a high priest, but it was he who said to him, You are my son, today I have become your father, as he says also in another place, You are a priest forever, after the order of Melchizedek. He, in the days of his flesh, having offered up prayers and petitions with strong crying and tears to him who was able to save him from death, and having been heard for his godly fear, though he was a son, yet learned obedience by the things which he suffered. Having been made perfect, he became to all of those who obey him the author of eternal salvation, named by God a high priest after the order of Melchizedek. About him we have many words to say and hard to interpret, seeing you have become dull of hearing. For when by reason of the time you ought to be teachers, you again need to have someone teach you the rudiments of the first principles of the oracles of God, you have come to need milk and not solid food. For everyone who lives on milk is not experienced in the word of righteousness, for he is a baby. But solid food is for those who are full grown, who by reason of use have their senses exercised to discern good and evil.
Blow you the trumpet in Zion, and sound an alarm in my holy mountain. Let all the inhabitants of the land tremble, for the day of the Lord comes, for it is close at hand. A day of darkness and gloominess, a day of clouds and thick darkness, as the dawn spreading on the mountains, a great and strong people. There has never been the like, neither will there be any more after them, even to the years of many generations. A fire devours before them, and behind them a flame burns. The land is as the Garden of Eden before them, and behind them a desolate wilderness. Yes, and no one has escaped them. The appearance of them is as the appearance of horses, and as horsemen so do they run. Like the noise of chariots on the tops of the mountains do they leap, like the noise of a flame of fire that devours the stubble, as a strong people set in battle array. At their presence the peoples are in anguish, all faces have grown pale. They run like mighty men, they climb the wall like warriors. They each march in his line, and they don't swerve off course. Neither does one jostle another. They march everyone in his path, and they burst through the defenses, and don't break ranks. They rush on the city, they run on the wall, they climb up into the houses, they enter in at the windows like thieves. The earth quakes before them, the heavens tremble. The sun and the moon are darkened, and the stars withdraw their shining. The Lord thunders his voice before his army, for his forces are very great. For he is strong who obeys his command. For the day of the Lord is great and very awesome, and who can endure it? Yet even now, says the Lord, turn to me with all your heart, and with fasting, and with weeping, and with mourning. Tear your heart and not your garments, and turn to the Lord your God. For he is gracious and merciful, slow to anger and abundant in loving kindness, and relents from sending calamity. Who knows, he may turn and relent, and leave a blessing behind him, even a meal offering and a drink offering to the Lord your God. Blow the trumpet in Zion, sanctify a fast, call a solemn assembly. Gather the people, sanctify the assembly, assemble the elders, gather the children and those who suck the breast. Let the bridegroom go forth from his room, and the bride out of her chamber. Let the priests, the ministers of the Lord, weep between the porch and the altar, and let them say, Spare your people, Lord, and don't give your heritage to reproach, that the nations should rule over them. Why should they say among the peoples, Where is their God? Then the Lord was jealous for his land, and had pity on his people. The Lord answered his people, Behold, I will send you grain, new wine, and oil, and you will be satisfied with them. And I will no more make you a reproach among the nations. But I will remove the northern army far away from you, and will drive it into a barren and desolate land, its front into the eastern sea, and its back into the western sea, and its stench will come up, and its bad smell will rise. Surely he has done great things. Land, don't be afraid. Be glad and rejoice, for the Lord has done great things. Don't be afraid, you animals of the field, for the pastures of the wilderness spring up, for the tree bears its fruit, the fig tree and the vine tree yield their strength. Be glad then, you children of Zion, and rejoice in the Lord your God, for he gives you the former rain in just measure, and he causes the rain to come down for you, the former rain and the latter rain as before. The threshing floors will be full of wheat, and the vats will overflow with new wine and oil. I will restore to you the years that the swarming locust has eaten, the great locust, the grasshopper, and the caterpillar, my great army which I sent among you. You will have plenty to eat and be satisfied, and will praise the name of the Lord your God, who has dealt wondrously with you, and my people will never again be disappointed. You will know that I am in the midst of Israel, and that I am the Lord your God, and there is no one else, and my people will never again be disappointed. It will happen afterward that I will pour out my Spirit on all flesh, and your sons and your daughters will prophesy. Your old men will dream dreams, your young men will see visions. And also on the servants and on the handmaids in those days I will pour out my Spirit. I will show wonders in the heavens and in the earth, blood, fire, and pillars of smoke. The sun will be turned into darkness, and the moon into blood before the great and terrible day of the Lord comes. It will happen that whoever will call on the name of the Lord shall be saved. For in Mount Zion and in Jerusalem there will be those who escape, as the Lord has said, and among the remnant those whom the Lord calls.
Psalm 142, a contemplation by David when he was in the cave, a prayer. I cry with my voice to Yahweh. With my voice I ask Yahweh for mercy. I pour out my complaint before him. I tell him my troubles. When my spirit was overwhelmed within me, you knew my path. In the way in which I walk, they have hidden a snare for me. Look on my right and see, for there is no one who is concerned for me. Refuge has fled from me. No one cares for my soul. I cried to you, Yahweh. I said, you are my refuge, my portion in the land of the living. Listen to my cry, for I am in desperate need. Deliver me from my persecutors, for they are stronger than me. Bring my soul out of prison, that I may give thanks to your name. The righteous will surround me, for you will be good to me.